Welcome to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashley Hope, and this is your weekly check-in to get out of your head, into your body, and back into alignment with the version of you who's already living the vision. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into the show. Hey friend, welcome back to Evolving Into Her. My name is Ashley Hope, and I help women align their mindset, emotions, and identities so they can live as the woman God created them to be and enjoy a more expansive, juicy, and fulfilling life. If this podcast has supported you in any way, please do me a favor. Make sure you're following the show and take a moment to leave a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple. So today's episode is one I want you to slow down with. It's definitely one of those conversations you're going to revisit again and again. You don't just listen once. It's something you save and bookmark and come back to at the start of a new season, before a big decision, on your birthday, or anytime you feel a shift happening and you want to meet it with intention instead of anxiety or fear. So friend, today I want to talk about blessing future you. And you know the deal. Grab something you can sip slow, and let's get into the show. So I want to start today by talking about the future, because whether we admit it or not, most of us spend a lot of time there. And it's not always conscious, but in small ways throughout the day, we're thinking about what's coming next, what needs to be decided, what might change, what we might want to work out. And thinking about the future like that isn't a problem. Wanting to grow, evolve, and move intentionally makes sense, especially when you care about your life and the woman you're becoming. What matters is how we're relating to it. Okay. For most of us, it tends to show up in one of two ways. We're either trying to manage what's ahead and we're planning, we're staying mentally on top of things, we're making sure we don't miss something important, or we're worrying about it and we're holding questions in the background. We're feeling that low level tension or anxiety around timing or money or relationships, or whether we're doing enough or whether we're behind. And both of those come from care. They come from responsibility, from wanting to make wise decisions, wise choices. But over time, they can leave us carrying the future in our body before we ever arrive there. So today I want to offer a different way of meeting what's ahead, meeting that next chapter, that next season, that next version of you. One that doesn't require you to stop thinking about the future, but invites you to relate to it with more intention and trust and support. And that's where the idea of blessing future you comes in. So when I think about sending blessings and prayers ahead, my mind always goes back to our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, our great aunties, generations of women who came before us. And I think about the women in our lineage who didn't have certainty the way we try to create it now. They didn't have timelines mapped out. They didn't have 5-year plans. They didn't always know how things were going to work out. And still they prayed. They prayed over their children when money was tight. They prayed over decisions they didn't fully understand yet. They prayed over futures they wouldn't live long enough to see clearly. And what's always struck me is how natural that was for them. There wasn't a lot of overthinking about it. They didn't need to see the full picture before they spoke the blessing forward. They just trusted that their prayer and their intention could travel where they couldn't, through generations. And when you really sit back and think about it, there are probably so many moments in your life that unfolded with more ease than you anticipated. Things worked out without constant effort. You were guided away from situations or towards others, and it only made sense in hindsight. Sister, that kind of protection doesn't come out of nowhere. And the prayers that help create it, they don't expire. So when you really sit with that, it changes how you see your own words, your own intentions, your own prayers. Because our grandmothers weren't doing something mystical or inaccessible. They were simply working with what they understood. They knew that speaking life forward mattered, that asking God to go ahead of them mattered, that trusting God with what was coming mattered. And whether they had the language for it or not, they understood something very powerful. Prayer doesn't just stop working because time passes. So when we talk about blessing the future you, we're not doing something new or something trendy. We're stepping back into something very familiar. Okay. Something very deeply rooted, something women have always done when they care deeply about what was ahead and they didn't want to carry it alone. And that's important because it reminds us that this isn't about having perfect faith or perfect words. It's about relationship. It's about trust. It's about believing that what you send forward with sincerity, with intention, with love can shape the way you meet your next season. And when you think about it in that way, blessing the future you feels less like a technique and more like an inheritance, something that was modeled to you, that was modeled to us long before we had language for it, and we get to continue it. The torch has been passed to us. And when I sit with the way prayers carry forward like that, I always end up thinking about why this works. Because our grandmothers, our elders, they weren't just saying words to make themselves feel better. They weren't guessing or, crossing their fingers. They prayed with an understanding that what they were doing actually mattered, that what they spoke had reach, that it carried weight, that it could move ahead of them and meet their children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren in very real situations, even if they're no longer here. And that understanding didn't come from confidence or personality. It came from knowing. It came from knowing that God had already given them access to something bigger than what they could see. He gave them authority. He gave us authority. And there's this verse in Ephesians that grounds this in a way I like to come back to often. And it's Ephesians 1:19 through 20. And the word says, I also pray that you will understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe. This is the same mighty power that raised Christ from the dead and seated him at the right hand of God. And what stands out to me every single time is that phrase, for us who believe. That means God's power isn't something we admire from a distance. It's not reserved for certain people or certain moments. It's something we're meant to live with. It's something we're meant to exercise. Something we're meant to rely on in everyday situations and transitions and seasons where we don't have the clarity yet. So when you pray over what's ahead of you, you're not just speaking into the air. You're leaning into a power that's already present. When you ask God to go before you, when you ask for wisdom, when you ask for discernment, for courage, for clarity, you're not asking for something unavailable. You're asking to work with what's already been given. And this is why your grandmother's prayers carried weight. She trusted that that power available to her was enough to reach beyond what she could manage herself. She trusted that speaking peace and guidance forward would matter, even if she never saw the full outcome. And sister, that same power is available to you now. That same authority is available to you now. So use it. When you're making decisions and you want to move wisely, when you're stepping into something new and you just want some clarity and maybe some alignment, you want to feel steady and grounded, when you're asking for discernment around people, opportunities, or timing, that authority that God gave you is your divine birthright. So use it. And once you understand it this way, blessing future you stops feeling so abstract. And it just becomes a natural extension of how you live your faith, how you exercise your faith, how you stand in your faith day to day. And if you're new here, I want to share a little bit of context. Earlier in the podcast, in episode 12 and 21, we talked about blessing your future self and asking God to go ahead of you instead of carrying this constant worry and anxiety about what's next. And you don't necessarily need to have heard those episodes for today's conversation to land, but if this resonates with you, going back to them later will deepen what we're talking about here. They really set the foundation for this practice of sending blessings forward and relating to the future with more trust and more faith. So go back and listen to episode 12 and 21. Okay, so when you sit with this all together as a whole, how we relate to the future, how women in our lineage prayed ahead, how God's power is available to all of us, it starts to feel very practical. And this comes down to how you want to show up moving forward, how you want to show up internally as life unfolds, how you want to carry yourself into the next season. What kind of energy, faith, trust, intention do you want leading the way? And you don't have to have everything figured out to begin blessing what's ahead of you. You don't need clarity on every detail or certainty about how things will turn out. You're simply choosing to walk forward with support instead of anxiety, with faith instead of this constant mental effort. You're choosing to walk forward with trust instead of fear. And so I want to offer a prayer for your next season, for this next season of your life, whether it's a new year, whether it's your birthday, whether you have a major event coming up. I wrote it in first person so you can speak it over yourself if you're open to it, or just let the words wash over you. All I ask is in this segment, you just be open to receiving. Holy Spirit, I welcome you into the next season of my life. I place what is ahead of me in your care. The plans I've made, the hopes I'm holding on to, the things that are still forming, and the things I haven't yet imagined. You already see where I'm going, and I choose to move forward, trusting that you are present with me every step of the way. As I step into this next season, guide my decisions. Shape how I discern what is meant for me and what I'm being asked to leave behind. When choices come, help me respond with wisdom and integrity rather than urgency or fear. Let my yes be aligned and may my no's be firm. Go before me and prepare the way. Open the roads that belong to me. Remove what would block my progress or pull me off course. Order my steps as I move into new spaces, into new opportunities, into new responsibilities, into new relationships. Help me recognize what is being offered to me by you and to trust that I will not miss what is meant for my life. Cover me with protection as I move forward. Guard my path. Guide my steps. Watch over my coming and my going. Send guidance ahead of me in places where I cannot yet see clearly. When direction is needed, help me receive it without resistance. Give me courage for this season. Courage to make wise and aligned choices. Courage to wait when patience is required. Courage to move when it's time to act. Strength to trust in you when the full picture has not yet unfolded. Help me release the weight I've been carrying on my own, the pressure to manage every outcome, the belief that I need to have everything figured out before I take the next step. Teach me how to rely on you more deeply as this season unfolds. Bless my relationships. Surround me with people who show up with honesty, respect, and integrity. Let connection feel reciprocal and supportive, where care flows both ways and I don't feel the need to overextend myself to stay connected. And if there are relationships that no longer belong in this season, help those transitions unfold cleanly, with understanding and peace as things shift or come to a close. Bless my body and my mind. Help me take care of my physical health with consistency and respect. Support my mental and emotional well-being. Help me notice when I need rest, when I need movement, when I need nourishment, and when I need support, and give me the willingness to respond to those needs. Bless my work and how I show up to it. Guide how I use my time and energy each day. Help me honor my gifts and apply them in ways that feel purposeful and sustainable. Bless my finances. Guide how money comes in and how I manage what I have. Help me make wise decisions around earning, spending, saving, giving, and investing so my financial life supports the way I'm meant to live. Let the effort I put in today lead to growth over time and help me take responsibility for what's in my care as things expand. Bless all of my days. Help me remain present as I move through them. Let me notice your hand in my life, not just in the outcomes, but in the process itself. I place this next season in your hands. I trust you with what's ahead of me. I walk forward knowing I am guided and cared for. In your name we pray. And before you move on with your day, I want you to remember this. What you just prayed wasn't hypothetical. You weren't borrowing someone else's authority. You were using your own. The same way your grandmother spoke life over her family. The same way your great-grandmother prayed ahead without needing proof of how things would turn out. Sister, that capacity, that authority, that power lives in you too. You can speak life over your life. You can bless what's ahead. You can cover your future before you arrive there. And you don't have to make it dramatic or heavy for it to matter or for it to work. Let this prayer be something you come back to when you need it, not because something is wrong, but because you're intentional about how you want to move forward. You're intentional about the season you're walking into. You're intentional about the woman you're becoming. And that's it. Take what you need from this episode, save it if you want to return to it, and trust that what you sent forward today will meet you when the time comes. Friend, if you're looking for additional support as you step into the woman God is calling you to be in 2026, I have a free resource for you. It is the Evolving Into Her book recommendations, and it's 10 books I carefully curated to support identity, healing, self-trust, spiritual growth, financial growth, all the things. You'll find the link in the show notes. Happy New Year, sis. Wishing you a blessed, bountiful, and beautiful 2026. I'll see you in the new year for the next episode of Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashley Hope, and until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming. I'm Ashley Hope, and you've been listening to Evolving Into Her. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for choosing her, for choosing yourself. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming.